It's time to have the talk about socialism, or as my friend John Nichols called it in a book titled The S Word. The S Word. John wrote an excellent history of socialism in the United States and of the presence of socialist ideas and socialist principles in major U.S. government institutions and in mainstream U.S. government life. It's not some crazy fringe other thing that's out there. So whether you call yourself a socialist or a democratic socialist or a progressive or even a centrist, even in this country, a lot of self-described conservative voters, you have some socialist ideas. It's not a dirty word. And what made me think of this was this recent clip of Hillary Clinton at what I believe was a speaking engagement of a charity somewhere or something of that kind, where she's being introduced. Sorry, I don't know the name of the interviewer who introduced her and then asked her some questions, but I was struck by this video clip that was posted recently, and I wanted to start by playing it for you. So let's go to clip number 1.
You may be the only presidential candidate since World War II that actually had to stand up and say, "I am a capitalist." And you did. Did it hurt you?
Probably. I mean, you know, it's hard. It's hard to know, but I mean, if you're in the Iowa caucuses and 41% of Democrats are socialists or self-described socialists, and I'm asked, "Are you a capitalist?" and I say yes, but with appropriate regulation and appropriate accountability. You know, that probably gets lost in the, oh my gosh, she's a capitalist.
So first of all, a couple thoughts about that. One is actually, as I see the background there, it's something called the Shared Value Initiative. I don't know exactly what that is, but she's basically bonding with her audience over the fact that she's a capitalist, and those crazy people out there, those Democrats, those Democratic voters, 41% of them call themselves socialists. Now, I would venture to guess that the 49% who do not, as I was saying earlier, have many, many socialist ideas. But it is odd for a candidate of a major party who has remained an active force in American political life, as Hillary Clinton has done, by writing, by speaking, by creating a PAC, all of which is, of course, her absolute right to do. It is striking that she would, in effect, be dismissive. It struck me as a little dismissive anyway, and denigrating of that 40%, as if, yeah, these kooky Democrats, but here I am with like-minded people. And the interviewer, of course, is saying, wow, isn't it crazy that you had to defend yourself by saying, I am a capitalist. Now, we're going to talk in a second about what it means to say, I am a capitalist in this country right now. We always focus on, who calls themselves a socialist, but let's talk about what it means to call yourself a capitalist in a second. But first of all, what the interviewer and then Secretary Clinton were referring to there, I assume, was this exchange from the debates with Bernie Sanders during the 2016 campaign. So let's go to clip number 2.
When I think about capitalism, I think about all the small businesses that were started because we have the opportunity and the freedom in our country for people to do that and to make a good living for themselves and their families. And I don't think we should confuse what we have to do every so often in America, which is save capitalism from itself. And I think what Senator Sanders is saying certainly makes sense in the terms of the inequality that we have. But we are not Denmark. I love Denmark. We're the United States of America, and it's our job to rein in the excesses of capitalism so that it doesn't run amok and doesn't cause the kind of inequities that we're seeing in our economic system. But we would be making a grave mistake to turn our backs on what built the greatest middle class in the history of the world.
Senator Sanders? I think everybody is in agreement that we are a great entrepreneurial nation. We have got to encourage that. Of course, we have to support small and medium-sized businesses. But you can have all of the growth that you want, and it doesn't mean anything if all of the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. So what we need to do is support small and medium-sized businesses, the backbone of our economy. But we have to make sure that every family in this country gets a fair shake. We're going to have a lot.
All right, so this is a fascinating exchange to me. I think it illustrates a lot, and I think Hillary's recent comments illustrate a lot. Let me tell you what I mean. First of all, I still hear people saying, well, there's no ideological split in the Democratic Party. Everybody kind of basically agrees. It's just a matter of tactics of what kind of candidate, what kind of strategy we think is most likely to win. I don't think that's true. I think it's more true among Democratic voters, but I think at the level of elected officials, I think there's an enormous ideological split, and I think you got a glimpse of that here. I think that it's fascinating to me, and by the way, Nancy Pelosi, of course, also said in response to a young person's question a few months ago, she said, we're capitalists, speaking of the Democratic Party. That's just the way it is. And like Hillary Clinton, to be fair, both of them have said that capitalism runs amok. That was Secretary Clinton's word, and creates inequities and does enormous crimes. And I was struck by Hillary Clinton's statement that from time to time we have to save capitalism from itself. You know, if you have a house pet that from time to time runs amok and destroys your house, destroys your property, destroys everything you hold dear, and then commences to destroy itself, and you have to intervene with drastic measures to protect yourself and the pet, perhaps that's not the kind of house pet you want to own. Now, to me, capitalism is not the engine of the middle class, and we get into issues of definition here. But Hillary Clinton said somewhat dismissively, now I love Denmark, but we're not Denmark. Well, that's a shame, because if we were Denmark, American workers would have better wages, they would have guaranteed vacation leave, they would have guaranteed sick leave, they would have health care coverage that doesn't bankrupt them to get the care that they need. I could go on and on. The quality of life is better in Denmark. Surveys show that the people of Denmark are happier than the people in this country. There is less poverty. So I would not be so proud to say that we are not Denmark. Now, a word about us being an entrepreneurial nation. Yes, first of all, we are an entrepreneurial nation. And by the way, so is Denmark. So is Norway. So is Sweden. When we talk about capitalism, we are no longer talking about the mom and pop shop or the couple of guys getting together or women getting together in a factory and creating a new device that will change the world. When we talk about capitalism, we're talking about the economic forces that are making those kinds of startup companies and mom and pop companies harder to create, not easier. When we talk about capitalism in this country, we are talking about a system in which an increasing percentage of corporate profits are going not to companies that hire people and make things, the productive economy, but to institutions like banks that trade in money, that make money off money instead of making money off people doing things and making things for other people. That is capitalism, and it is a disaster. It is a parasite. It is a vulture on the economy and on the life of the people. Capitalism in this country, you can wrap yourself in the mantle of the mom and pop operation in order to defend capitalism, but capitalism in this country is a drain on the public wealth. Now, that does not mean that the government has to own all activities or employ all workers, but when you believe in capitalism as an ideology, which is what these Democrats are saying, these establishment Democrats, when you believe and state that capitalism is your ideology, what you are stating is that the bankers who got rich on Wall Street by defrauding millions of American homeowners and foreclosing on millions of American homeowners illegally and unethically, that they are okay. They are fundamentally okay. And from time to time, we have to save them from themselves, which means, of course, they can't go to jail for their crimes. Of course, they can't pay a financial penalty for their crimes. And God forbid that their banks should be broken up or that they should lose their jobs running the financial economy of this country, because from time to time, we have to save them from themselves, because capitalism, to steal a phrase from Mitt Romney, is people. It's like Soylent Green. It's people. I'm sorry. I should have given you a spoiler alert there. So capitalism is people. It's people running amok. It's people exploiting each other. It's people destroying the very house that they live in. It's those people that we are periodically called upon to restrain. And until we learn that, we will continue to have this disastrous going on. You just may be an anti-capitalist if you think that it's wrong for bankers to cheat people and get away with it. You just may be an anti-capitalist if you don't believe that the lion's share of profits in this country ought to go to people who don't do anything but buy and trade in money. You just might be an anti-capitalist if you believe that small businesses and medium-sized businesses that are the engines of this economy deserve to grow and prosper because they hire people and they contribute to economic growth more than these large corporations. You just might be an anti-capitalist if you think that monopoly power is destroying this country. You just might be an anti-capitalist if you believe that entrepreneurship is being strangled by the financial class, not encouraged by the financial class. And you just might be an anti-capitalist if you think that our economists and our politicians should value a public sector job in this country just as much as they value a private sector job. You know, we always have these headlines about how private sector employment is up, private sector employment is down. Well, don't we care whether cities and school districts are hiring teachers and government workers? Don't we care if states are hiring workers? Don't we care if the federal government is rebuilding the highway system? Why is it that a public sector job is psychologically devalued in this country? You just might be an anti-capitalist if you believe that a teacher's salary is just as valuable as a banker's salary. You just might be an anti-capitalist if you believe that somebody rebuilding our highways and keeping our trains and airports safe is a valuable worker just as much as they would be if they were working in the private sector. Now, I don't care if you call yourself a socialist, a democratic socialist, a progressive, but I do care if you call yourself a capitalist, you're walking down a slippery road towards believing that it's okay that oligarchical wealth controls the political system in this country. That's not just my opinion. It's a result of a Princeton study by two authors named Gillens and Page. I encourage you to look it up. You're walking down a wrong road if you call yourself a capitalist that way. You think that oligarchical wealth is okay. You think that massive inequality is bad, but maybe we can tweak the current system and reduce it a little bit. If you think that the destruction of the planet is, well, it's regrettable, but we really can't do much about ExxonMobil or anybody else to stop it. Now, a closing thought about this, where this ideology leads you. A lot of us were rightfully horrified when Mick Mulvaney, Trump's budget director and head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, told a bunch of bankers recently we had a hierarchy in my office in Congress. We said, if you're a lobbyist who never gave us any money, I didn't talk to you. If you're a lobbyist who gave us money, I might talk to you. Now, that's horrible for reasons I will go into in writing very soon. But, you know, our friend Secretary Clinton told the editorial board of the Philadelphia Inquirer in something that didn't get much attention at the time. This was during the 2015-2016 primaries. She said, quote, "I've gotten so many donations over so many years, and I'm very grateful for. People have been supporting me over my political life since 1999, and I can't tell you specific examples because there have been many occasions where people have said, quote, would I look into this? I always say I will look into something, but I always tell people there is no guarantee that if I look into something, you are going to like my answer. And that has been my practice. Now, Secretary Clinton believed, and I think by her lights, she believed sincerely that she was reflecting integrity in that quote, because she was saying, I will listen to any big donor, but I will not promise to do what they say. However, she was reflecting a kind of capitalist-leaning, legalized corruption that says that if you're a big donor, I will listen to you. Now, Nobody says, if you're a Black Lives Matter protester in the street, I will listen to you unless I receive political pressure to do so. Nobody says, if you are a striking teacher in Arizona, I will listen to you. Nobody says, if you're just trying to get by on the minimum wage, where, by the way, on the minimum wage in this country, you cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment in any county in the United States. So if you're a single parent trying to get by and have a bedroom for your children in the United States, there's no guarantee that says, I will listen to you. That's where the ideology of capitalism takes us. So you can be anti-capitalist while still thinking it's fine for businesses to employ people, fine, as long as you understand, first of all, that the government has a role in our economic life, that the government should direct and guide large aspects of our economic life, and that there needs to be a balanced system run by and for the people. Now, if you think that's radical, then just take a look at Social Security and Medicare, because they are doing just fine.